Today, I want to talk about Square. It's probably been the number one stock in my emails and in my comments that you have asked me to look into. Uh, Square is a part of what is known now as FinTech, the disruption of the financial system. Why is our financial system appropriate for disruption? Because it's a punitive system. You enter into a relationship with a bank, you borrow money from them, and if you do something wrong, if you miss a payment, they send you they charge you a fee. The major banks collect, on average, $30 billion in late fees each year. I compare this to when I was a Boy Scout and I would go hiking with our troop in the woods, and the scoutmaster was there to help me and to show me a good time. Well, if he was a banker, if I fell, he'd kick me when I was down, because that's what a late fee is. You don't plan on it. It happens, and so therefore you are not able to make your payment. You still have to make the payment, but we're going to charge you a late fee. In addition to that, the average person who has a dealing with a bank is charged about $360 per year in fees. And a lot of this is because they have a huge infrastructure. They have a lot of people working for them. They have a lot of branches. They have a lot of tall buildings in downtown areas, and that has to be supported. So their margins have to be high in order to run a successful business. Well, technology is coming in and saying, we don't need to do that. There's another way. The other thing that is different in the banking business, you have to prove your worthiness to them before they will lend you money. And sometimes you can be very worthy and they still won't lend you money. In my circumstance, as if you watch my videos, you know I am building some homes for the retiring baby boomers. And I have some land, and I don't want to take the money out of my investment portfolio, which most of it sits inside of IRAs, and use that money to build the houses. So what I have done is I've went to my bank that I have worked with for over 35 years, and I said, look, I've got a home equity loan for about for about $160,000. I want to take it up to about $400,000. My home's worth $750,000. It's paid off. I've been with you for 30 years. I've made all my payments. And they looked at me and they said, Kerry, you don't make enough money. Well, I make quite a bit of money, but I make it inside my IRA, so I don't pay any taxes on it. And they said, oh, okay, we see your money in your IRA. What you need to do is sell those stocks and move them into an IRA account at our bank in a CD. And we'll pay you 0.5%. Well, I'm making 30%, folks, thus far this year in my IRA account. So that wasn't appealing. So I don't feel that I have a good relationship with my bank. So what is Square? How are they coming into this? Square is a company who has recognized a problem, kind of the problem I'm having, but more specifically for small businesses. He tells a story that he walked out of his apartment one time and there was a lady there who was selling flowers, and she didn't take credit cards. She said she didn't have the ability to take credit cards. And as he was talking to her, a gentleman came up and wanted to buy some flowers, and she directed him down the street to an ATM and for him to get cash and come back. Well, he never came back. And Jack said, I recognized at that point that there was a problem. He also recognized that most coffee houses didn't have the ability back in '09 to take credit cards. So, because the banks really didn't want to mess around with them. They knew that restaurants and coffee houses have a turnover problem, so they didn't want to deal with them. So he created this company, Square, that would allow people to take credit card transactions through the use of their phone. In fact, I had an experience with it. Nita and I wrote this children's book. It's called The Christmas Web. It's about our Christmas tradition. And my daughter Shannon suggested I write it. I had it illustrated. I had it manufactured in China. And Nita and I spent about 3 years going from, arenas and whatever in September, October, and November, and selling our book. Well, a problem became that we would have to take cash. Well, at that time, I discovered that there was something called a swiper. You actually put it into your phone and you could swipe a credit card. Well, the one I got right here actually came from Amazon. But they were difficult. It was difficult to deal with. So I got a second one, and that came from Square. And so I used Square for 3 years, and they charged us a modest fee for the transaction, but it gave us the ability to sell our Christmas web through credit cards. If you want to learn more about this, go to www.christmasweb.com. It's still available, and it's still one of the ventures that I have put into my life. So what they did was solve that problem for me so that I could take credit card transactions. They have since, that was in 12, they have since expanded this business towards small businesses. And let me show you, this is the two areas of their business right now. One is seller-oriented, and it provides that terminal quite often you see when you go into a restaurant or a small business that allows you to use your credit card to pay for goods and services. They've then expanded upon that to help businesses do some social media marketing. They have also created a payroll system so that an accounting system so that the small business owner doesn't have to spend so much time keeping track of their business. And the other thing that's really important here is it has opened Square's world to see how these small businesses are run. So now they are offering them loans. Now, the average loan that Square offers to a retailer or a restaurant or whatever is about $7,000, whereas the large banks, the average loan is about $100,000. Truly, the large banks at this level do not see Square as a problem. They see them as someone who can take care of people that they don't want to deal with. So that's a good thing. On the other side of the equation, Square has what they call a cash app. Now, this would be an app that I could use like a wallet to pay for for anything, actually. They have it so that you can buy Bitcoin through it. They have it so that you can buy stocks through it. Now, why is this important? It isn't important to me, and it may not be important to you because you probably have a relationship with a bank. In the United States, 94% of the population of age has a relationship with a bank. On a worldwide scale, however, 21% of the world's population of age does not have a relationship with a bank. So they don't have the ability to write a check. They don't have a credit card. They have to deal in cash, which quite often isn't comfortable. But if they can make a deposit with Square, and then they can use their phone to pay for goods and services, that gives and not be charged an outlandish transaction fee like Western Union might do, which I believe is about 12% on both sides. And this also here in our country makes it possible for immigrants or for people in this country to send money back to the people where they came from, their parents, whatever, who don't have a bank account. This makes that available to them. So again, part of what Jack Dorsey's challenge is and what drives him is to solve problems. And both the seller end and the Cash App solves problems. The other element that I think comes into play relative to Square is that it's data-driven. They know, because they're handling the small businesses' credit card transactions, they know pretty well whether they are eligible for a loan or they're a good risk for a loan. Something else that Jack mentioned that I thought was very foresightful is that the banking business works on a premise that you prove to us that you are worthy for us to lend you money and deal with you. Square works on the premise that everyone is good until they prove themselves bad. So if they're doing business with you and you need a loan to do some expansion or some improvements or whatever, they're they see your cash register receipts over a period of time. They're very quick to make you a loan. The other thing that they do is, rather than sit you down with a loan officer and you fill out a bunch of paper, they already got that done because you're doing your accounting with them, and they do it with a bot. Remember, I did a video on Lemonade in the insurance business, and that's what they're doing, a bot. Now, just like Lemonade, they take that insurance that they sell you, they sell it to reinsurers. That's what Square does as well. They sell your loan to investors and thus give them a higher return. So they're making money on both sides of this transaction. So they have an expansion area. Now, are they going to ever get into the position where they disrupt the banking system? In the United States, if you are going to disrupt the banking system, you have to be a bank. You have to have access to the Federal Reserve. You have to have access to or fall under the regulations of the government. At least that's my understanding. So to that end, Square recently has filed application to become a bank in Utah. This tells me they're moving in a direction that will eventually make them a bank disruptor. The other thing that Jack mentions is, for that to really happen, there is going to need to be a common currency. And what he is saying is the difficulty of changing American dollars into Mexican pesos is another transaction that requires a fee, and that is another element that makes banking not very attractive. When I travel to foreign countries, I find that I have to pay a fee to convert my currency, my American dollar, to their currency. The last country I went to was Cuba. Cuba actually charged me a 15% fee when I took my American dollars and turned them into Cuban dollars, and they also then told me they would not take the Cuban dollars back and give me American dollars. No, if I took a Cuban dollar, I needed to spend it in Cuba. So there are punitive fees in that realm as well. That makes banking vulnerable. So where I think that will go is blockchain. And we'll get into that in another video. The other thing that really, there's two other things that really intrigued me about Jack Dorsey. First is that in an interview I saw recently, he said he was going to spend a month in Africa. Well, folks, this is where an awful lot of the people, small businesses, have no access to banking. This is a cash society. This is where some of that 21% of the people in the world who do not have access to a bank live and try to do business. This is also something that I'm sure is an issue in India. So I see Jack going to Africa, and I equate immediately to that to Mark Zuckerberg taking Facebook into India. And I see something that I really like. A CEO who sees I'm doing good here in the United States where that some people have a problem, I can do good in other countries where people have a bigger problem. Now, is there a profit motive there? Of course there is. But more important, there is a motive of doing good, being nice. Something else I wanted to share with you about Jack. In an interview, he doesn't come off as a very strong personality. He comes off as kind of shoulders down and eyes down. And he shares that when he was a young boy, he was extremely bashful, such that it was difficult to get him to speak, just to say anything. And he recognized that in him and that it would be a detriment for the rest of his life. So he enrolled in a class where they would give him a 3x5 card, and it said a subject on it, and they would give him 5 minutes to create a 5-minute speech on that subject. He was allowed to use the card to take notes and to put his thoughts down, but then he was not allowed to use the card to make the speech. And he said, what I learned from that was I was capable of doing anything that I put my mind to. He's also a faster. He doesn't eat. He eats 1 meal a day. And he said that as a result of fasting, I have become much more focused in what I do. Every hour of my day is measured as to how I can best use that hour to be most productive. And he said fasting has helped me in that. He also made another statement that I thought was profound. He said, I know that I am here for a limited time, and I only have so many sunsets left in my life. So it's important to me to make a decision. Do I want to see today's sunset or not? Do I want to see today's sunrise or not? So that's how I should determine how I spend my time. I think there's a real lesson to be learned here. I also share with you my belief, and as I have in the past, you don't just buy a company. You buy its founder. You buy its CEO. And I have often said, buying Jeff Bezos, buying Mark Zuckerberg, buying Elon Musk, and now I will put buying Jack Dorsey is a good bet. Relative to buying Jack Dorsey, they have not shown a profit yet. Their earnings in the last quarter showed a 43% increase. That's good. Still not making money. Also, their stock has gone up phenomenally since March. I'm looking for a buy-in, a place to buy in. Their business is probably not going to show a profit, and their earnings are not probably going to be good in their next earnings report, which will be, it looks to be, August the 5th. So I'm going to probably sit on the sidelines unless I'll watch it, but I'm going to see how their earnings report comes in and how that report is reflected in their stock price. So that's my take on Square. There are some other players in this, and if you really want to understand FinTech, you need to look towards China. China is way, way ahead of us relative to FinTech. This is a cultural thing. There's a reason for it. It's also a technology thing. In China, the technology companies, if they are in good standing with the Chinese government, they can move very quickly. There are some cities in China that you go into a grocery store or a restaurant, they do not have the ability to take credit cards or to take cash. All you can do is use your phone to pay for the goods and services you want. They're way ahead of us in that. They also, of course, being an enormous country and not much travel, they only have one currency, as we do. But as the Western world, we have multiple currencies. I am of the belief that that will change. I don't know if it's Bitcoin. I don't know what it's going to be, but I believe it's going to change, and that will be the major disruption to the banking system. The banking system is burdened with infrastructure, punitive actions. They have no place in our society that is evolving. We are evolving into, if you haven't noticed it, there's a whole lot of us who wear masks because we care about the people that we deal with. We treat nicely people who are discriminated against, whether they be for race, creed, or color. And if you don't, you're a minority. You're going to fall into the minority. So being nice and working well within the community we live, because as Jack says, we are all connected. It may be a distant connection, but we are all connected. And as you treat me badly, or I treat you badly, it ripples. And eventually that ripple comes back to you. So our society is waking up. Our society is recognizing that what is offensive to you may not be offensive to me, but if it's offensive to you, it will come back to me. It will ripple back to me. So our world is changing. And just because of the banking system's willingness to kick you when you're down, that you can't make your payment, that they hit you with a late fee, particularly if the late fee is $20 and your loan is for $100. You just got hit by a 20% fee. They can't survive because we now are in a society where we recognize we're all connected. You're connected to me. Okay, something I need to share with you. I'm getting some people who are saying I've signed up for and I'm not getting your morning market report or marketing plan. That's because, for the most part, it's hitting your spam folder. I'm sending out 7,000 of them at a time. So your email receptacle is saying, hey, this is spam, and they're throwing it into your spam reporter. Or if you have Google or, Gmail, it may be appearing in your social folder or your promotional folder. So you need to go and move that into your primary folder, and then you'll get it. Because some of you are actually telling me, I'm getting it 3 days late. That's because when I do the autoresponder, it says if someone doesn't open it when they receive it, then send it again in 3 days. So you're getting it, you're just not finding it. So I encourage you to look in your spam, your social, and your promotion folders, and you'll probably find it. I want to go deeper into this FinTech because I think this is if it's not as big as the e-commerce. I think we will be in a e-banking world very swiftly, and it is going to turn the banking system upside down just because they're not kind.